What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Before I begin, I want to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you for helping to make this channel possible. I really appreciate it. If you like what you see and you enjoy the content, and if you haven't done so already, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, comment in the comment section below, and hit the bell to receive notifications. Also, I have an eBay store called the Carolina Collector 001. The link is in the description box of every video and short that I upload here on YouTube. Go check it out. I actually made a short about my most recent items that I'm probably going to sell. And please forgive me, today was just a long, hot, drawn-out day. So if I sound winded, it's probably because I am. So I found these in my backlog. I was going to do an action figure video for all of you. I wanted to get ahead of the game so I can give myself a break this weekend. But I didn't realize I had two sets of the missing Link to Karatomi Transformers Convoy, or Optimus Prime as we know him here as in the United States. So I still haven't, at the time of this video, decided what I'm going to do and how I'm going to list these two particular boxes. So just keep an eye out for them if you're interested. I'll try to make them as cheap as possible. But anyway, and speaking of shipping and packing and all that kind of stuff, if you go into my USPS is incompetent playlist, you're going to see two new videos that I found that were very recent. One was from a person who was stealing checks from the post office and buying all sorts of stuff. And the feds investigated it and thus busted the person. The second one was right here in my backyard in Ballantyne, fairly recently, where something called check washing was occurring in the post office, allegedly, where the feds are now investigating this post office. And as you know, I've got videos here on YouTube, especially in that particular playlist, where even here in Charlotte and Concord and Cabarrus County, 75,000 packages, are still floating around in limbo. Whether or not that number has changed since that news report and since I talked about it here on YouTube, who's to say? And so far, except for two cases, potentially three, as far as my most recent eBay sales going back into June, one box disappeared off the face of the planet. The customer is a viewer and loyal customer of my eBay store. Unfortunately, I think this box was stolen, allegedly, by my post office right there in Pineville, the 28226 station. Because when I went in there to confront them, the fucking, Jigglypuff, the chocolate-colored Jigglypuff, gave me an attitude, so I filed a complaint against her. But yet, I still got the tracking number in 17 track, and the missing claim is still valid. No package, no movement, no scans, no anything. And my customers know that I am very, very, very shrew when it comes to this sort of thing. And apparently one of my customers did not receive a Shohei Ohtani, and now I have another customer who's saying that they didn't get their Jackson Holiday. So here we go. But for the most part, it looks like most of my cards are arriving to their destinations and their orders are arriving to their destinations. And again, guys and gals, please forgive me. I'm very tired. Today was a very long day for me. I've been using these new labels, scan before delivery, and I've been seeing that happen, as you know, and I have discussed it in previous videos that eBay now has implemented certain changes where now if my cards, or my orders, I should say to be more specific, get scanned, I'll receive a text message. In particular, in words, the most important is that order gets delivered. And I should get a text that it was, in fact, delivered, and that's been happening quite often now, which is good. But even yours truly, when it comes to my own personal stuff, that I suffer like the rest of you as well, and I have evidence of that right here. I think I've roughly talked about it, that I was diagnosed with H1C, which means that my blood sugar is extremely elevated. My doctor wanted to put me on metformin and all this crap. But, I'm trying to do it through alternative means because, obviously with that wonderful event that took place in my former home of New York City in 2001, being exposed to that chemical stew, I'm tired of being a lab rat for these doctors. I'm not a paycheck for these doctors. I'm not going to be told to just do this and do that and take these pills and be on your way. I'm not doing that no more. So I've chose to go years ago the natural method, au natural, which means going on a diet, staying away from the junk food, staying away from, all sorts of garbage and trash. I don't drink whole milk. I drink low-fat milk. Or, I don't eat takeout, that often. I do sometimes, but, those times are very few and far between. I don't go to bars. I don't go to restaurants. I very, very rarely eat Chinese food. Sometimes I do if I don't feel like cooking. It all depends. I might have a Burger King sandwich once in a while, but I cook all my meals. I tend to eat a lot of turkey. I eat a lot of tuna. I eat whole wheat bread with a lot of my sandwiches and stuff like that. Low-fat cheese, low-fat mayo. In other words, cutting out all the trash and garbage. Even this cup right here has Minute Maid zero sugar fruit juice in it. Fruit juice. Where it really should be called fruit flavored drink. But anyway, you get the point. I've cut back on calories, I've cut back on a lot of the drinking, and cut back on a lot of garbage, and you can even see it in my face. If you looked at my mug shots, which I was very proud to show off here on the channel, because as you know, like Trump, I'm like, Neo from the Matrix. Like Trump is Neo from the Matrix, dodging, flying lead. And, some people took it upon themselves to put my mug shots out there, but of course I'm an innocent man. That's what happens with certain things, but one of those mugshot photos, you can see how fat my face was, and now I'm floating around 195 to 200 pounds, when back then I was like, 260, 270, and in some cases 280 pounds. So I'm very proud of that weight loss. But unfortunately, my blood sugar, I'm still dealing with that kind of stuff. As a result, I take a lot of supplements. Again, no potato chips unless they're baked or any of that kind of stuff. I try not to eat garbage. I tend to drink a lot of sugar-free liquids, etc. Even the energy drinks I drink are all sugar-free. But I take a lot of supplements. Now, as a precaution, because I had a little bit of eBay money in my account, I ordered for a second bottle just in case this bottle doesn't show up. I ordered for what's called benfotiamine, which I believe is the manufactured or man-made form of vitamin B1, which is good for your nerves, it's good for your blood sugar. It's good if you have peripheral neuropathy, which I unfortunately do have in my toes a little bit and the bottom of my feet. It has subsided quite a bit since I started taking R-alpha lipoic acid, B1, B12, B complex. What's that other stuff called? Dihydroberberine, etc. And that neuropathy slowly subsides. I can tell when my blood sugar is up because I'll start feeling that tingling a little bit, in particular my pinky fingers and in my toes. But when it's down, I don't get that weird fiery burning feeling. And that's where I really get it in my feet, unfortunately. So, but once I take them supplements, it tends to calm itself down. But it takes many, many months of taking this stuff for it to yield any kind of results. And I'm into it for several months now, and those symptoms are subsiding little by little. But once you come off of it, and you should never take too many supplements anyway, because your body does develop a tolerance for it. So I tend to do it in phases. And I ordered for this bottle of benfotiamine, which I'm going to show you, the itinerary for the tracking of this bottle, which I ordered it from a seller in New York. And the most bizarre thing has happened with this order, because I had to file a missing claim for it, and then it disappeared again. And this has been going on since July 31st. And this is what now, August 15th? Geez. It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous that I'm having to go through this. So as of today, August 15th, I'm going to show you the progress of this. Of course, I've redacted the case number and the tracking number, but you'll see pre-shipment USPS awaits item. That's when I first ordered it. You could see that item was received, and then you see the course of it going through the system. And then all of a sudden it disappears. All right, you're going to see missing mail search initiated. So it went from July 31st all the way to August 6th after I filed that claim with the post office that this thing just stopped moving. So from July 7th on, it finally started moving, and you can see it traveling all over the place here. West Virginia, etc. But then it gets a little strange. It goes to Pennsylvania, and then ends up in Ohio? What? Huh? It ends up in Ohio. So it's coming from down north and then going back up north again? Huh? What? So it went to Ohio, and then you flip it over, and it ends up here in North Carolina, in Gastonia. And then all of a sudden, it stops. I'm like, what the hell? So I try to file another claim at the post office. I can't do that because it already has an active claim attached to it based on the tracking number. So I get in contact with the seller, and I had no choice but to file a missing mail claim. But I still wanted it. I wasn't asking for a refund. I still want my order. I need this benfotiamine, which is what prompted me to order the second bottle, which is currently in transit right now. And I need that for my blood sugar. This is like a real legitimate issue for me. I really don't want to start taking prescription medications again. RFK is right with a lot of things that he's been talking about over the years, that a lot of these medications can do more harm than good. And for all I know, all of the medications over the years I've been taking for my insomnia and all that probably did more harm than good to me. If you look back there, I don't know if you could pick it up on the camera right by my printing station, by my kitchen. Those are all the supplements I take, and it's kept me looking young. It's kept me looking healthy. I mean, I could see it in my face. I've lost a lot of weight over time. And for a man that's almost 50 years old, there are 30-year-olds that are going bald and have gray hair. That's not the case with me. I still got a full head of hair, though I do need a haircut. I got broccoli head. I got after bang bang head, if you catch my meaning. But it stops again in Gastonia August 9th. Now I file this claim with the seller. I don't want a refund. I still want the product. So it's in transit. It got scanned August 13th, and then it ends up in Florida as of today. Sugar tits, sweetheart. This is, because of these 3 orders that unfortunately got screwed up. And thank God I got good customers. I mean, one of my customers was getting a little snippy with me. And then I sent the link to my YouTube channel and the playlist with the USPS and their incompetence. I sent them that link so that this person can actually see these videos for themselves. And hopefully, that helps because, I get victimized by this too. As an eBay seller, it sucks because it costs me money. Even if it's 99 cents, it's still money out of my pocket. I get screwed and my customer gets screwed. But I'm also a buyer. And when I need stuff, especially supplements like this, and they get hung up in a post office, well, imagine if you're somebody that has cancer, like, my dad had issues with his health, and he needs prescription medication, and you rely on the post office to get this shit right to you. Or grandma's laying in bed and she needs medication, or an aunt or an uncle, or maybe, your kid. And the post office is essentially holding it hostage because of their incompetence. Thank God at least I'm healthy enough where right now it's not an issue, but it does concern me because, without this stuff, those symptoms can, really accelerate. Anybody that has high blood sugar or full-blown diabetes will know that's something not to play games with. My uncle has full-blown diabetes. They've already amputated toes off of him, and he's partially blind at this point. He's in constant pain, and, he can barely see. He can barely get up. He could barely do anything. I don't want to end up like that. That's why I take all them supplements. I eat healthy. I change my diet. I try not to drink so much and all that sort of thing. I genuinely care about my health. If you saw photos of me, God forbid, if I were to put on a oversized white T-shirt, I would look like a lowercase b. You know what I mean? That's how big my stomach was sticking out of my body. It was gross. I didn't like it, and I decided to take action. Even with this stuff, I know it's a batch of chemicals. Still, I know somebody would probably be observant enough to point that out. But at least it's sugar-free. I mean, listen. When it comes to human food, You're never going to have anything 100% pure. Even the fucking tree bark and grass that's right outside my window will never be pure. Everything is purified, hydrogenized and all that kind of stuff. It's just, that's the nature of it, for preservation purposes, because, food's very expensive. And if we don't find ways to preserve our food, to make it sit on the shelf for a lot longer, people are going to go hungry, man. I mean, that's just the way it works, unfortunately. But it's all the other crap in there. And I agree with RFK when it comes to certain foods, that a lot of this junk needs to go. And I see the result of that because I don't eat Doritos. I don't eat, cheese puffs or anything like that, or cheese doodles, unless it's baked or low fat or something like that. I don't really, I don't eat like traditional dishes that are filled with carbs and all that kind of stuff. I tend to eat a lot of meat that I cook at home. Again, I don't eat a lot of Burger King or Chinese takeout. Like I cook and prepare my own meals. I eat a lot of turkey. I eat a lot of tuna fish. I take a lot of fish oil, whether it's algae-based or fish-based. Sometimes I'll go through a couple cans of sardines and eat them right out of the can, all that sort of thing. It just depends. And as a result, the weight took itself right off. And I used to do a lot of walking last year, but I haven't had to go out there and exercise, which by right I should if I'm truly trying to manage my blood sugar. But man, all of this eBay stuff and YouTube stuff keeps me busy. But at the same time, in all honesty and all joking aside, you don't play games with your health. You really don't. I've come to realize that, you can't stuff your face full of food, that contains all this garbage and chemicals and what have you. My triglyceride counts have come down. My bad cholesterol has come down. Things that are a symptom of age, like with me wearing reading glasses now. I'm almost 50 years old. It's just a function of time. You know what I mean? But again, I'm not going bald. I don't have gray hair anywhere on me. And that's a good sign. My testosterone levels are up, which is good for a guy my age, or at least they're nominal, as the technical term is. So it's like, when I need to manage my health and my blood sugar, where's that piece of paper? And the post office fucks this up. That's concerning. Imagine if you had a family member, if my dad was still alive and he was relying on the post office to deliver his medications to him. He would be in some serious trouble, and it would be their fault. I don't know how anybody has not sued the post office yet. And when I saw that news report coming from Ballantyne, that checks are being stolen, that there's check washing and all this crap, and that's right here, right up the road. Ballantyne's like not even 15 minutes from here by car. They're still continuing with their shenanigans. And when postal workers are caught stealing, it's a scary thought. It's a real scary thought that people are so desperate that they have to resort to theft. But in this case, I'm sorry, this is incompetence. So it started in New York, went to West Virginia, went to Pennsylvania, then it went to Ohio, then it came here to North Carolina, and is now in Florida. That's 6 states. And what's between me and Florida? South Carolina and Georgia. Let's see what happens with this one. Don't you just love the post office? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.